Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crossing the Finish Line. I am your host, Cody Kaler. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at A&Z Trucking. Today, we're going to talk about tech, not just any tech, though. We're going to talk about tech that can fully automate everything from your spot and contract pricing, as well as track and trace and back office support. So our guest today is Madison Santo. She leads the growth team over at AVRL. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Madison. Hey, Madison.
Hey, Cody. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. How's it going today?
Yeah, it's going good. It's nice and hot here down in Houston, so we're staying inside most of the time.
I feel you. I'm in Phoenix, so we stay in until October.
Yeah. Sometimes later.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so a lot of people probably have no idea what AVRL is. I personally didn't until you and I had met. So I'm super excited to have you on because, some of the things you guys are doing, it's in my opinion, it's groundbreaking for smaller and mid-sized brokerages, right? It's leveling the playing field for everybody. So really excited to ask you some questions today and kind of go over everything that you do over there, as well as, the background, how AVRL started and what you guys are really doing to help brokers like ourselves. So why don't we just get started with how did you get your start in the freight industry as an individual?
Yeah, interesting. So I've been on the technology side within my entire logistics career. I've always been on the technology side. And I got introduced to a TMS company. I had worked for a construction company. And so I got introduced to a TMS company. They needed to bring on, I was their third sales rep ever. So they brought me on and I immediately fell in love with logistics. I love the people in logistics and I knew that I wanted to stay in that space. It had been really steady for us as well, at least on the technology side. So I started at a TMS company, started working both for full truckload. A lot of what I did was a TMS for full truckload. Also worked for a company called Ultra Ship, which did shipper TMSs. So kind of dabbled in the shipper side as well. Got moved over to an upstream oil and gas company. There, I helped kind of navigate what a TMS would look like for an upstream oil and gas company with the team over there, worked over there for a bit. And then I started some startups. So I wanted to get into the startup side of things on the technology side. So worked on the finance side for a tech company in logistics. Then I got intro to AVRL. I had no idea what AVRL was or did. I had been in the space for multiple years, never heard of Chad Olison. And so I got introduced them to a friend of mine in the industry. And he was like, hey, I need you to meet Chad. This technology is amazing. And I was like, okay, I've been in this space. How have I never heard of it? So got on the phone with Chad, met him, and I was like, okay, interesting personality. I was like, he built this company and if everything he says is true, I was like, this is awesome. So I ended up going through an interview process with him. And at the end of it, I got kind of cold feet because I was like, man, this guy doesn't have a website. There's nothing out there. I can't find any marketing at all on this company. And I was like, I think this might be a scam. I was like, I don't know that AVRL actually exists out in the market. So Chad was like, hey, do you want me to put you on with some customers? Like I can just put you on with customers. So I got on with some customers and then I ended up going to TIA with Chad. And there I was like, wow, we know everyone. Like everybody knows who AVRL is. If you are into automation, you've put automation in your business, everyone knows who we are. So that kind of sealed the deal. And then I came on board, I guess that was almost a year and a half ago and been at AVRL ever since.
Love it. Yeah, it's crazy. So we met through a mutual friend of ours, Samantha, right? And when you reached out to me, I kind of actually had the same idea. Like after you had gone through your sales pitch to me, I was like, man, if she's really telling the truth, this is going to be crazy. Like this is game changing, right? Like for small and mid-sized level brokers, your guys' technology it's I can't say it any better than just it levels the playing field for us with everybody else, right? So all the big boys have automation, right? We all know that. All the big 3-letter brokers, They automate everything. They don't have a random person in the background, quoting 1,500 spot loads a day. That's just not how it works. So I was in the same boat there. I was like, man, these guys sound legit. I hope that this is real. And after we've gone through everything with you, it is real, and it's very, very cool what you guys are doing. And you're enabling us to to compete. And it's a very, very cutthroat industry, very, very cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
Being able to have that labor savings and automation with confidence. That's the biggest thing for me is everybody preaches automation, right? Every TMS that you talk about, which you guys are not a TMS, just to clarify with everybody out there, is they're not a TMS. But every TMS preaches about automation. Oh, they're going to save you labor here. They're going to be able to automate your back office, your track and trace, all that fun stuff. And some of them help, but I have not yet been able to find anybody that can pull off the automation that you guys can pull off, which is amazing. So how about you give a little bit of background on AVRL, just so that everybody's kind of a little bit more educated on where you guys came from, how you started?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely had an interesting start. Logistics is not where AVRL started. We got introed into logistics. So I'll give a quick background there. For anyone that doesn't know, AVRL stands for Advanced Voice Research Lab. We started as a natural language processing company, built some in-car voice system, and we started to connect large disparate systems and make them talk to one another, aka automate. We started doing that for the largest retailer in the world and quite a few of the Fortune 500 companies. So connecting their backend systems and automating those basically. That largest retailer in the world introduced us to the largest intermodal company in the US. We came in with a lot of ideas of what we thought the logistics industry needed. We were very unfamiliar with this space. Chad and Nikolai, our two founders, were incredibly unfamiliar with the space. And so they had this grand idea for what they thought logistics needed. And the company was like, hey, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. But can you automate our spot bidding? And we were like, well, what is spot bidding? They were like, it's basically eBay for freight. And they
That's
were
a good
like,
way to put it.
yeah. And they were like, okay, well, this is easier than the idea that we started with. Like, yeah, we can do that. So that was the very first use case we ever had in logistics. And from there, it was kind of a snowball effect. Once we started working more closely with this first company, another top 100 called us, and we stayed in the enterprise space for a very, very long time. AVRL never ventured outside of probably the top 100 3PLs and carriers in the US. So that was how we built out all of our use cases. We start with Spot. And the reason we knew we wanted to stay in the logistics space was because of the high revenue that spot bidding brings. We had done some data calls with a few of our customers and realized we were like, wow, this is a huge, massive impact on their revenue. They were like, okay, we're on to something. I think we need to stay in this space. And so again, kind of just a snowball effect within that top 100. And then we built out other use cases beyond that. So we have quite a few. We do appointment scheduling and track and trace and invoice reconciliations. Quite a few use cases. So I was brought in about a year and a half ago. My whole goal coming in, I told Chad to start off, I said, hey, this is awesome. I love our customers. I love what we bring to the enterprise space. But this needs to hit mid-market. This needs to come down and hit mid-market. And I have worked traditionally in the mid-market space. I was like, all the people I know and everyone that I've ever worked with, I want to give these guys the same abilities as we're giving all of the top 100, basically. So Chad was like, all right, let's figure this out. We built a mid-market product to allow our customers who didn't have huge data science teams and huge engineering teams and things like that to be able to work and have the same flexibilities and the same capabilities as the largest in the world. So that's what we did. And we've pivoted a ton since I started. I told Chad this yesterday. I said the company when I started at AVRL to where we are now, we are a completely different company. We always use the words like we are out innovating ourselves. And that is so true. I told him, I was like, I can't keep track of our engineering roadmap. And we are so fast. I would venture to say we have the largest engineering team in logistics. Don't quote me on that. but it's huge. So yeah, where we are today is completely different to where we were. We don't really go after the largest anymore. We are spending a ton of time in the mid-market space and figuring out who are the right partners. And that is not everybody. Not everyone is ready for automation. Not everyone is in the spot for automation. I do think it is going to be absolutely necessary to be able to truly compete. When you see the software, it's really difficult to compete manually with bots that are doing all of this at a very, very, very rapid pace. But yeah, that's kind of the background on AVRL. That's who we work with. And then, mid-market is really where we want to take this though, and finding the right type of customers and the right type of partners. It's not a software, if you've seen it and you, Cody, have, it's not a software that you can plug in and let it run. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes data. But a big piece of what we've done the past year and a half is, those top 100 have their data science teams. They know how to look at data. They know how to plug it into Power BI. They know, they have engineers to be able to do all different types of manipulation. Well, coming into the mid-market space, what we found was we had to have that for our customers now. Our mid-market customers don't have that. And so we had to bring on a bunch of people from the industry, a lot who have actually worked on the AVRL technology, to be able to help our customers review data and give them the same abilities, again, not just handing them software, but giving them a team that surrounds them to help them with their data manipulation, everything with the automation, basically.
Yeah, and that's key. There's a lot of software out there that claims to be plug and play that you sign up for, and then there's no customer support after that, and it gets a little disappointing. And the software's like on the brokerage side, like it's necessary. I mean, if you're not continuing to automate everything you can, you're going to get left in the dust. But it's also extremely frustrating, and that's what I really like about your guys' approach, is that you're very, very vested in us being successful, right? Yeah. And so that taking that approach is, I think, one of the many things that is separating you guys from the competition, which I don't think there's a ton of competition. I mean, there's competition out there, but I don't think that there's competition at your level, given how robust you guys are. So you mentioned, it's not a plug and play. So what do you think is the hardest thing about implementing and then maintaining automation? Because, I can attest to this, getting everybody on the right seat on the bus when you're implementing new software, whether it's TMS or anything, it gets rather difficult, right? And if everyone's not fully engaged and fully aware of what's going on, the greatest software in the world is going to fail. So what do you see? What do you see from all of your integrations that you guys have done and all your rollouts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say change management is probably the hardest piece. When you've had people that are, and I'll just use spot bidding as the example today, but when you've had people who have been manually doing this spot bidding, and they could be really good at it, not saying that people are bad at it, they just can't work at the pace that a bot can. That's very difficult to be able to hand that over to a bot and trust that a bot is doing it. Now, there's a lot of things we put into place. And again, the past year and a half, there's been a lot of things we've had to put into place to give like very, very, very fast real-time data to you that you can see what the bot does all day, every day. But I would say change management is the biggest piece. And we are very clear. If anyone is watching, we are super clear when you come on board the work that it's going to take. There's even times where we have been like, we've had a prospect talk to a customer, and we tell our customers like, hey, give them everything. Do not hold back. You tell them the good, the bad. And usually the answer is the same. The software works just as it is intended to work. It is fantastic automation. It will put you milestones ahead of your competition, but it is hard work and it does take time and effort. And we really help with that piece of it. That is something that, I've said before that we've had to really come in and do and really, really guide on like how often you need to be reviewing your data, how often do you need to be touching the system and things like that. But we're very clear on that coming in. And then also being able to take that away from people who have done it manually can be difficult to do. But when we have buy-in from the top down and across an organization, it works flawlessly. I've seen both sides. I've seen a customer come on board and struggle because their people don't want to do it. And then I've seen it work absolutely flawlessly throughout a company. So, if you went and asked our customers, they would say the software does exactly what AVRL will tell you that it will do. But you do have to have buy-in from your people.
Yeah, and it's very difficult, especially in this industry, for anybody who's been here longer than COVID, right? To trust a bot, to your point, but also like just to kind of change what they've always done, right? I mean, we went through this. We started automating our capacity management about 4 years ago. We started working with Parade. Big shout out to those guys. We love those guys over there. We'll probably have Jesse on the show here in a little while. But we went through the same thing. We had some carrier reps that they didn't believe that AI could do a better job than their cell phone and their email, right? And so it's like, hey, I've got these 10 carriers that always cover this lane for me. And, I just text them all what loads I have in the morning and all this fun stuff. And it's like, no. We have a system now that can do all of that. And it's going to, touch all of your carriers at the same time. They're going to bid on it. So you're able to put the best carrier at the best rate, who's in the best possible situation. If you've got a load in Fresno, you don't want to, take a guy who's in LA type stuff. And it takes all of that out of that in the blink of an eye, and what you guys do seriously is incredibly fast, incredibly accurate. If the data on the front side is accurate, right? And that comes from the user interface, but, and I was blown away by it. I mean, I was seriously blown away by it. And, we're looking forward to implementing it here probably in Q3. So, I'm not just bullshitting people about, how awesome it's going to be. We're going to go through this because we believe in it, and the ROI is amazing. I mean, we work with several enterprise guys, and, we get on average, a couple hundred to sometimes over 500 spot quotes a day. You don't have labor for all that stuff. And we have spot quotes coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning, like midnight type stuff. And, I have a track and trace team at midnight, but I do not have somebody who's going to be able to accurately, quote a spot load for 2 days from now, going from a random area that we've never picked up on. But you guys are able to do that. Not only are you able to do it, you're able to do it accurately and extremely fast. So, I've been blown away so far by it, and I'm excited to really roll it out with you guys and be a partner with you guys. So I do have a random question though. I mentioned that we started working together through Samantha, who's a mutual contact of ours. How come AVRL doesn't do any marketing? I never heard of you guys. And for as many companies as you guys work with, and for the crazy automation you guys have come up with, how come there's no marketing campaign?
Yeah. Great question. When AVRL first hit the logistics industry, when we started to quickly work within a few months with the top 100, we knew the space was small. We knew that as large as this space is, it is such a tight-knit group. And the whole idea from the founders of the company was, if this software is as good as we say it is, number one, if you work in our software and you leave and you try to go do it manually, you'll never stick with that. You will take us and you will implement us into another company. Number two, word spreads like wildfire. And that has been absolutely the case. Third thing I would say is, because it's such a small industry, we don't want our ideas getting out. We do keep that, close knit because it is so high tech. We like to keep it kind of close to the chest as well. And it's worked out pretty flawlessly, I would say. So yeah, I think the biggest piece was just that if it is going to work, and if it is as good as we say that it is, then it's going to get passed around. And that's been the case for a lot of our customers, especially when someone has used us on the pricing team or really any team, the ops teams. They will take us to the next company. They've seen it and they're like, I can't live without this. We don't have a competitive edge without AVRL. I have to bring this into the next company. And that's a big piece of what we've done. If anyone's looked, we don't have a website. We don't have anything. You might follow Chad on LinkedIn and you might see him.
Yep.
Yeah. You might see him posting and trolling people every once in a while. And you might be like, who is this guy? And why is he on LinkedIn? Well, now you know it's AVRL. So
that's funny. That is funny. I did notice that too. After the first time we talked, I tried to look up your website and I was like, how does a tech company not have a great website? This is crazy. But,
Yeah.
you know, but you don't need it. I mean, the fact that, you know, and I'm not spilling too much to like any secrets or anything, but you're one of the very few softwares out there that I have demoed in the last, I don't know, 15 years of my life that has a full opt-out clause. And that speaks to the fact that like you probably don't have anybody use it. You know, most people
Yeah.
in tech are trying to lock you in for 2 or 3 or 5 years. And, you know, when we were going through everything, I was like, wow. So if I'm not happy with your product tomorrow, I can literally ditch it. And you're like, yep, but nobody's ever used it. So, you know, it's there, but you know, and the ROI is so high on it. I don't understand why anybody would, as
Yeah.
long as it's utilized correctly. So,
Yep.
I look at it as a, you know, a pricing analyst who can accurately price things very quickly, that never takes a holiday, never takes vacation, never calls in sick, never is going to get upset because I didn't have a pizza party on Friday, like anything like that. Right. It's just always there, always working. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. So I definitely want to get you on here and, you know, get the word out a little bit more. Maybe I won't have as much of a competitive advantage, but you know, it is what it is. But you know, I love it. I think that what you guys are doing is amazing. And you know, FYI, if anybody who's drove a BMW, you guys have used AVRL's technology as well. That's where you guys started, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I know that Erica, she already commented. I know that she loves her Beamers. So, you know, she's already a
Nice.
user, but
Shout out to Erica.
yeah. So, what else? We've got about 6 minutes left before we're going to end this. So, what else do you want to give any shout outs to anything? You want to touch on anything? How can anybody get a hold of you if they do want to start talking to you about, you know, potentially looking into AVRL?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can message me on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email at madison@avrl.io. But kind of going back to what you said, Cody, about that opt-out clause. We put that in there forever ago because when you work with Fortune 500 companies, they are going to force you to have an opt-out clause. That's
Yeah.
just a part of it. And then when no one used it, we were like, all right, well, we're just going to leave this in there. And then a big piece of that is having that openness and clearness with people that, hey, we are looking for the right partnerships. We will not hold you to this. If you do not see the ROI, we are not going to, you know, hold your hand to the fire and keep you on this. And that's a big reason for the, you know, what AVRL, what people would say about AVRL out on the market. If you go ask any of our customers, you know, you're gonna hear that, and you're gonna know that, and you're gonna know that we are looking for the right partnerships, and we don't bring on everyone. So my title at the company is growth. That's a little bit obscure, I would say. And a big piece of what I do is I come in on every single deal, and I make sure that the company that we're bringing on is going to be a partner. So as you vet us, we vet the companies back. There have been people I have told, like, you're not set up, you're not ready for this, or you're not serious enough about this. That's a big piece too, coming on board is making sure that someone is serious about automation. The last thing that we want is to bring on somebody, they don't use the technology, they're not looking at the data, they are, you know, slow to implementation, and then they go out into the market and say, oh yeah, AVRL doesn't work. We will cut your contract. We will be like, hey, you're not just gonna sit here and let this waste away and pay us money. We will cut your contract to make sure that everyone's happy at the end of the day. So that's another big piece of it, is that we're very clear on that. You know, when a company comes on board, and we want to be open and honest with them, as you guys are back with us, because it really is a partnership. We really do become an extension of your team when you come on board with us. The people that we deploy, and if you worked with AVRL 3 or 4 years ago, we were different. We were like, hey, it's super, super expensive and you take it or leave it, and you better have your own data science team. That's not the case today. You know, we really become an extension of your team, and we will hound you to get things done. Like my implementation team, my bot intake team, they will hound you to get things done because they want your first to value and the ROI to come as quick as possible. We know how to do it. We have it down to an absolute science. We know what it takes to do it. And we will keep you on track to do it. So that's another big piece for, I guess, the opt out, going back to that as well.
Yep. Yep. It all sounds amazing. And I have talked to a couple customers. Obviously we've gone through everything with Madison, and it is legit. I mean, so anybody out there who's looking to be able to capitalize on some of the spot opportunities, but it's not just spot too. I mean, everyone can raise their hand and say, how long does a giant contract take? Like, we'll get RFPs that are 5,000 lanes. That might take me a month to accurately price as many of those lanes as I possibly can. And you guys can greatly, greatly reduce that from a data standpoint, from a data harvesting standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And that's for somebody like me who, I still do a lot of the pricing for our company. That's huge for me. If I can reduce, 4 weeks worth of work down into a week, I mean, that gives me 3 weeks back to work on prospecting or other RFPs. I mean, it's like, that portion. And then the fact that you can truly automate the back office, the track and trace, is a huge help. Because like I said, there's a lot of TMSs out there. I won't name any names, but they love to claim that they can automate your back office and your track and trace teams. And they do help, but I've yet to find a TMS that can truly automate them as well as you guys can. So you guys are doing some amazing things out there. Everyone who is interested in it, definitely reach out to Madison. If you can't find her on LinkedIn, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to introduce you guys. But definitely something that anyone in the mid-market should be looking at. If you work with an enterprise shipper, you should be looking at AVRL as an option. The ROI, one, it's pretty close to being immediate, and two, it's through the roof, right? There's so many opportunities that slip through your hands. I can't even remember the data when I was at DATCon last year, where they actually talked about spot pricing and how much we actually, your typical broker actually bids on versus what we receive. And it was in the teens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like if you're 16, 17, 18% of what is coming your way, you're actually bidding on because, you're either busy, you don't have time, it's in the middle of the night, like I mentioned, those are all wasted opportunities. Every single one is wasted opportunity for you to improve your market share with your customers, improve your service level with your customers, and improve your growth. And that's what we should all be here for, right?
Yeah.
So
and the APIs, along with the spot, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this knows that, there's a lot of freight going on to the shipper APIs as well. And that's another thing that you have to be able to tackle. Those can be a beast. As you know, a lot of them you have to respond within seconds. So, being able to tackle both the APIs that the shippers are putting out, that real-time rating, dynamic pricing, along with spot boards is, both of those together has been a successful ROI, very high revenue generating. And then beyond that, like you said, fully automated appointment scheduling, track and trace, invoice reconciliations, tender acceptance, and your RFPs. We have a lot that we do. We built it alongside of our customers for a few years now, and it is very successful. We love it. I love it here. So.
And just to be clear to everybody, they're not a pricing company. They don't have a tool that's pricing anything based off of anything that you're not feeding to it. So it's not like a DAT tool or a truck stop tool or trucker tools or anything like that, or green screens. You guys integrate with all of those, and you guys can allow us as brokers to price it with our historical data as well as all of those tools in a blended model, correct? That's what your bot can do. So they're harvesting the data and allowing us to make the best decisions as quickly as possible.
Yeah. If you want to learn more, let me know.
Awesome. Well, we are up on time. I really appreciate you hopping on, Madison, and I'm sure I'll have you back on in the near future. So if anybody has any questions, like I said, reach out to myself, reach out to her, and thank you for joining us for another episode, guys.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it.
Thanks.